This is Lego, short for Legalos from Lord of the Rings. And his family calls him Lego. He is a three-legged dog, and he gets along great. He's almost a year, or a little over a year?
A little over a year.
Now, in this video, I'm going to teach him how to stay, as well as offer tips and tricks that you can use if you have a dog that suffers from separation anxiety, which he absolutely does. Now, separation anxiety, it's important to understand, is actually basically a panic attack. And if you had a friend who was so scared of spiders and a spider fell on her and she wet her pants, if she was a good friend, you would make fun of her. But most of us wouldn't make fun of our friend for that because they're not doing it on purpose. They probably feel really sheepish and embarrassed about it. And so if our dog has an accident when it has separation anxiety, we never want to get upset with the dog for doing that because it's not doing it on purpose. It's literally losing control of its bowels. Now, a lack of control is a big contributing factor for this. Now, most dogs sit that suffer from separation anxiety, in my experience, don't know a lot of commands. And so they have lower self-esteem, which amplifies things. Now, I asked his guardians earlier, and he only knows about 2 or 3 commands. So I went off camera over the importance of teaching new tricks and commands. Stay is not very difficult, it takes a lot of time and practice. And there's a reason, there's a method of my madness. But I'd like the guardian to go to YouTube and find easy dog training videos, how to teach your dog to walk in a circle around you, how to play dead, how to balance a treat. All those different things give us ways to redirect the dog's attention and will also boost his self-esteem, which will have an effect on his separation anxiety. You're not supposed to be jumping up on me. I definitely can't reward you with a treat for that because that would be rewarding the wrong thing. So the skill I'm going to go over here is teaching him to stay. And I'm going to go over that for a specific reason. Then we're going to do a little bit of a bonus with the kennel. He's, I think, getting to drink water. That's all right. I got to talk for a second anyways. So for a lot of our dogs, they only go in the kennel when we're leaving. So the kennel represents I'm restrained and I'm about to be abandoned. So we need to get the dog to practice being in the kennel when we're home with the door open, which I'll show you here in a sec. But also, the guardian right now, there's one guardian in particular he's bonded to, and she doesn't use the bathroom by herself. She doesn't go anywhere by herself. He just follows her everywhere. We call this a Velcro dog. Now, a lot of dogs that have separation anxiety have this issue. They never practice being a part of their owner. And so when we do leave them, they go from 100% access to us to 0, and there's nothing in between, and they're just not prepared for it. So I like using the stay because it gives us the ability, Lego, it gives us the ability, yeah, I thought that might work. Come. Teaching the dog to stay gives us the ability to put the dog, once we know to stay while I go get a drink of water, and then I come and release you. Stay while I go use the bathroom, then I release you. Stay while I go make a sandwich. So the idea is to have him be out of the room for progressively longer and longer periods of time. Now I teach to stay for 3 Ds. First, for duration. I want the dog to be able to stay for up to 5 minutes right here in front of me before I start moving away. That's the next level, which makes it more difficult. Most people try to do those at the same time, and it really causes the dog not to perform very well. So once I can get the dog to stay for 5 minutes, and I don't want you to practice just here, practice in different parts of the house. Dogs don't generalize well, they need to practice in different locations. Once you get to 5 minutes, then we start incorporating distance. When I do distance, I would do the same thing I'm going to show you in here in a second. Stay, and I take 1 step back, and I count to 2, then come back and give them the treat and say the word stay. Remember, anytime you give a treat, the dogs should hear the command word after the treat goes in their mouth, immediately after. And then next time I'm going to take 2 steps back and count to 4. Now this is just where I start off. Every dog's iterations are going to be different. Go at your dog's pace. If you go from from 5 steps to 10, or let's say we're doing duration. Let's say I go from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, and at 9 seconds he gets up and walks away. He's telling me I'm not ready to go that. I would back up at whatever the interval was that he got up at. I practice it at one interval of an easier iteration, if that makes sense. All right, come here, buddy. Come. Come here. Yeah, you're milking it now. I've worked a lot of 3-leggers. I know you get along great. There we go. Come. All right, so when I say stay, I'm going to have a whole bunch of treats. I'm going to keep one in this hand. I'm going to put it behind my back so that he's not distracted. A lot of times they go for the treat. Lego, stay. And I put my hand on my chest, and I count to whatever it was. I'm going to count to estimate in my mind about 5 seconds. Stay. Now, I usually go 2, 4, 6, 8 is where I start, but he was already laying down, so I know he's going to be here for a while. So I'll try to go 10 seconds. Stay. So half distance between you and the dog when you get the stop sign. Put your hand on your chest. It doesn't matter where he's looking because eventually we're going to have him to stay when we're in the other room. Stay. Now right there, when that shift could indicate that he's about to get ready to go up, so I want to beat him to the punch. We don't want him to practice moving away. All right, so let's see if we can get a 15-second stay. Stay. This is not the most exciting footage. But stay is one of these exercises you have to practice in short practice sessions over and over, sprinkled throughout the day. Not just sit down and practice stay for 5 minutes. So stay, and then just wait a second. Talk to the kid about something, and give the dog a release. All right, that's about right. Stay. Now, at the end of the stay, we want to give the dog a command word that means now we're done with this. It should never be the word okay, because that's a top 50 frequently used U.S. word in English. So I'm going to say parole, because I like fun command words. And the guardians can change this to something else if they want to later. So to do this, I let him know I have a treat. I toss it just right out of his side of his reach. Parole. So you're going to practice this 5, 10, 15 times, however many times you're going to practice this, and the very last one, you throw that treat to the side. And then say the command word after he licks it up. So my dogs actually have a stay and a wait. Stay is stay until you hear the word release or break or freedom or parole. Wait means wait till you hear the next command. Most people don't need the difference of the two. You could, for you guys, I would recommend just doing the stay. You can do a wait later on if you want as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and approximate doing the stay for distance, but this is probably going to get him to come. This is why you don't want to do it until you get to 5 minutes. So now I'm going to stand up. So I go stay, put my hand on my chest. And it's okay if we're not both in the shot for this one. Stay. Now eventually, I'm going to go ahead and start angling this way. Eventually what I want to do is get to the point where I'm at this many steps, and then, so let's say up, stay, 6, 7, I step out, and you saw he got up to come towards me. So this is why we want to keep on doing it for duration until, because it's hard for dogs to sit here for 5 minutes. Why are you not giving me the treat? And they'll start offering you a shake or roll over or different stuff to get that treat. So it's hard for him to stay for 5 minutes. So once we've achieved that, then we should start being able to moving away. And again, we do it 1 step, 2 steps. Don't move out of his line of sight until you can get him to stay where you're about 15 feet away. Now the first time we do it, and we're not going to worry about him, but let's say that the camera is the dog's line of sight. So I get to this point, I'm backing up, and I go like this. Then I immediately come back and give that dog the treat. So the first time I go out of sight, it's like half of a second. And now some homes have security cameras. If you have one, you can watch it on your phone. That makes it great because you can see, is he getting up or not. And eventually 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. And again, if you get to the point where you're going from 5 to 10 seconds and he gets up, then back up and practice at 7 or 6 or whatever iteration it is. So the idea for this is to keep on practicing until you can be outside of his line of sight for like up to 15 minutes. So now it's going to be very short intervals. But then once we get to the point where you can be out of sight for about 5 minutes or for a minute or two, stay and go get your drink of water. Stay and then come back and release him. Make sure you release him. That's the thing that people forget. And then the dog thinks, I have an auto release. I can release myself whenever I want. No, you have to stay till you hear parole or whatever the word is you guys want to change it to. And then the idea is now he's practicing for being alone for progressively longer and longer periods of time. He's calm because he knows you're still in the house. And then this is an analog to when you actually leave the house. He's practicing doing this. He has some practice now between 0 and 100. Now, normally I would recommend the guardians take him to dog daycare while they're practicing and helping him get over the kennel, and this I'm going to go over a kennel exercise now. Problem is he's dog aggressive. So we're probably going to need to set up a behavior adjustment training session with him to work on that. Now, I showed the guardians how to get the dog to like to go in the kennel, and before, we did this before. So what I did is I threw about 10 treats in there, and I closed the door. Hogwarts is the word we're going to use for the kennel because we have kids in the house. So I threw about 5 treats in there and we closed the door with him outside, and he was like pawing at it, let me in there. And we made him work at it for a minute, and when we did open it, not only did he go, and every time he licked up the treat, we said the word Hogwarts. That's how we assigned the command word. Not only did he do that, but the second time, he actually, there we go. Now at first, if your dog's really reluctant, you want to throw it like that. But then you want to throw it farther so he actually has to go in. Hogwarts. And he actually went in after the second time we practiced this and went in by himself and hung out in there. Well, and you see he's lingering. Now, if your dog goes in here and it goes like, looks like it's stealing third base or whatever, and they're leaning over, they're saying I'm not comfortable. And this is because a lot of times we shove them in there and we slam the door. You don't want to ever do that because that implies that you shouldn't trust me because I'm going to fool you. So you can see he's lingering in there, which is great. Now, I'm going to ask him to come out, just kind of moving away, grabbing a treat or two. Actually, I should have been a little bit more prepared, but that's all right. I move fast. So what we want to do is have him practice going in the kennel and being calm. Now, the kennel, like I said, for a lot of dogs, here, buddy. And I'm not making, and don't feel bad for him, Hogwarts, because he's a three-legged dog. He's in the prime of his life, and he doesn't feel sorry for himself, so we shouldn't do it either. So for a lot of dogs, being in the kennel represents two things. I'm being restrained and left alone. So we want to practice having him in the kennel while the TV. The family here watches a ton of TV. I'm just kidding. They don't watch any TV. But basically, we want to practice. We're playing a game with the kids, or we're just having family time or whatever. We want to practice being in this kennel while we're home, so that he's practicing being calm in the kennel. So I want to keep on tossing these treats in like this until he goes without any hesitation, which is pretty much where he's at now. So next time and I'm going to let him come back out. Now what I'm going to do is toss one in far enough where he has to get in. Well, I want to toss it so he's got to get in all the way. There we go. So now what I do is I walk up behind him here, and I'm blocking him from being able to exit. Now, at first they don't really care. Now, he's a little dog, so he might actually have to use a tennis racket. I have big clown feet, so it's hard for me to block. But the idea is now the door's open, but I'm blocking the door. Now, he wants to come out. That's what he's trying to tell us. So I'm not going to allow him to do that. And when he looks up at me again, I'm going to take a small step back. He's going to start coming forward, and I'm going to go like that as my way of saying no. So I don't want to block it, have to be blocking it. There it's. Now, I'm not going to let him out until he SITs. He doesn't know that he has to SIT. I call this, this is kind of one of the things I do as a behaviorist, is I try to create a scenario where when the dog offers me the behavior that I want, there we go. Come. So, in this case, he doesn't have any other choices. He can't run away, he can't get up, and sit. That's passive training. As soon as he sits or lies down, and he went straight to an LAY, might have been a little three-legged dog thing, but as soon as he lays down, he gets freedom. So you want to keep on doing it, and then immediately afterwards, take another treat and throw it all the way in there, and let him go in and come out without any restrictions. So he doesn't want to think every time we do this, we're practicing this game. So, come on, buddy. And make sure you throw it far enough so he has to go all the way in. I used to do this with a long axis to the kennel, not the side, because otherwise he'll do just that and he won't go all the way in. And so again, he practices going in there, and he's practicing being in here calm. So then the next step is, usually I wait till they sit, and then I lay out, and then I come out. That's awesome. And before I came here, the guardian said he has never gone in there and laid down, and he's now done it 2 or 3 times. We've only been working on this not very long. So basically, now we're helping him practice being calm in here, and good things happening. So at first, it's usually a sit, and then I let him out, and then eventually, once they go and sit right away, they figured it out. Now I make it more difficult. Now you have to lay down. And as soon as the LAYs, then I let him out. And then I ask him the LAY, and then wait 1 second, then 2 seconds, and then 4 seconds. And gradually, just like we did for the stay, we're going to ask him to stay in here with the door open while we're hanging out in the room for up to and it can be anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. But go very slow. Go second by second until you get out at 15 to 30 seconds, somewhere in that range. Then you can try increasing it by 5 seconds. But again, if he fails, crash. Always back up to whatever iteration. So count in your head or have a timer or something with a stopwatch. So the idea is, again, he's practicing being in here for longer and longer periods of time. Now, one last thing is when you come home, and normally he's in the kennel, there you go. When he's in the kennel and the door is open, now this you shouldn't try to start closing the door at first. At first, we want to keep it open until he can be in there for about 5 minutes. Then we do want to spend some time with him practicing, but now we go the same thing. As soon as he sits down, I'm going to open and let the latches out. And then once he sits down, I wait for him to lay down before I do consistently lay down, then lay down plus a couple seconds. And so we get to the point where, and make sure you always latch both of these. Especially, I see this a lot of people, they don't latch, and the dog can get their paw or the head stuck, pushing out a little bit. And so as soon as the SATs, then I'm going to unlock the door and let him out. So we're saying this is the way to ask me to get out, is by sitting in here. And he's breathing a little heavy. I think it's probably athletic more than anything else. Oh, no, that's a little bit.
I was going to say this is what he does.
This normally does. Okay. Yeah. So again, this is why we want to practice this without closing the door until he's comfortable in here. Now what I'm going to do is when we come home, let's say that we've gotten past this and he's nice and relaxed, we come home because he's been in the kennel. When I open the door, I'm not just going to let him out. I'm going to open the door the same way. I'm going to do the same thing. And he's not allowed to come out until he SITs or preferably LAYs. I'm not telling him what to do. If If I tell him what to do, he's just following a command. It doesn't signify anything. When he SITs, that's his way of saying, I understand, I'm challenging you less. And when he LAYs, that's his way of saying, I surrender. And what we want him to do is just practice being in here enough that he's nice and relaxed and is happy to do so. So we'll see. We'll give him another second and see if he'll do this. Sometimes I let the dogs stick their head out. Sometimes I don't. It kind of depends. I think he's going to SIT here in a sec. If they're sticking their head out really far or they're right in front, they're more challenging. When they kind of resign to it, they will go and kind of do a half circle and they usually sit or LAY in the back. Now, if he's challenging a lot, like right here, like he is now, then this might be using a tennis racket or something like that. So I take a step back, and he's going to look at it as an invitation. So I step right forward towards him again to block him from coming out. So you want to see that suddenness? You want to move suddenly towards him. That's what moved him back. There we go. Come. So these are some tips and tricks you can use to teach your dog to stay, help it practice being alone, as well as a bonus to teach your dog how to get over a fear of the kennel.